recordings will be available on the college preview landing page, which you would have seen on our NBCC website. We'll hopefully have that up there by the beginning of next week. So if you want to go back and watch it, or if you wanted to refer us to a friend, please do that. The recordings will be available next week. And also during the presentation, feel free to engage with us during the chat. I won't be on screen during the chat, during the presentation, but I'll be monitoring the chat and I'll do my best to answer any questions. If there's anything I don't know, we can hold it to the end and ask the pros here. So now on to our presenters for this evening. So with us tonight, and I'm just going to introduce everybody, and then I'll pass it over to Andrew, who will kind of take the lead and go through the presentation. So our presenters for this evening are Andrew McDonald, who's the Academic Chair for Industrial and Mobile Equipment Repair, and he's based in St. John. We have Shannon Savoy, who's a coordinating instructor for the Industrial Mechanics program on the Miramichi campus. We have Daryl McTavish, coordinating instructor for Heavy Equipment Service Technician on our Miramichi campus. Robert Hitchcock, coordinating instructor, Truck and Transport Service Technician on the Moncton campus. Darren Donahue, coordinating instructor, Marine Diesel Mechanic on the St. Andrews campus. And Joel McGibbon, coordinating instructor, Agricultural Equipment Repair on the Moncton campus. So like I said, please feel free to engage with us in the chat. Reminder to keep your cameras and your microphones turned off during the presentation. And now I'm going to turn my microphone off, and turn it over to Andrew, who can share his screen, and we'll go from there. So Andrew, take it away.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you all can make it. I'm going to try to share my screen, and hopefully you guys will let me know when you can see that, or somebody will.
Looks good here, Andrew. I can see that.
Thanks. So keeping my camera off right now just because of the internet connection, and so that you can just focus on the PowerPoint. As Mike has said, I'm Andrew McDonald. I'm the academic chair of the Industrial and Mobile Equipment Repair Department. I may be a little bit biased, but I think this department has all the cool programs in it. So if you're here tonight, you've made a good choice. As I said, I'm going to use a PowerPoint just to kind of help guide us along. But as you'll see, there's the different programs are in here, and as each program comes up, I'm just going to bring in my coordinating instructor for that program, as they're the ones that can go over it with you and answer your questions better than I can. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through it, and they're going to give you like a brief overview of their program. And we'll just move on from that. The thing is, I just want you all to remember that the reason why we're here tonight is so that we can answer any questions you guys might have. So make sure that any questions you have, make sure you ask them. These are the guys that are going to be able to answer it. So with that, I'm going to go. And so our first program we got is agricultural equipment repair. So for that, that's going to be Joel. So Joel, if you wouldn't mind, you can take right over and go from there.
Hello. So this is Joel McGibbon, the agricultural instructor at the Moncton campus, like Mike and Andrew have already introduced. So a little bit of my background prior to we get into this is I've grew up around a farm and around equipment, and equipment was always kind of my best part of the interest. So that's kind of what led me into the trade. So I've worked 12 years in the trade at a local John Deere dealership, and now I'll be finishing my 9th year in instructing the program. So what we're here to is kind of introduce the course a little bit and some of the objectives of it. And with a lot of these courses, you'll see that they all kind of start off with the very basics, starting off with safety and hand tools. And as the year goes on, we'll gradually get into a little bit more complicated and harder procedures and so on and so forth, but taking it one step at a time. And they're all orientated to be a pre-employment course also, that if you've had no previous experience, you'll do just fine as long as you're willing to go through the work and go that way. So I guess with this, the farms have changed a lot over the past years, and especially the last 10 years. You see a lot of differences in equipment in the way the farms have ran, which makes it very important that you have a good service technician. And as the farms have got bigger, what they need to do on a daily basis has changed so much, and that the equipment has got so much more complicated that we need good techs to do these jobs here. So with them growing as fast as they are, downtime is a very important or problem with them. And so you need to be able to diagnose the equipment and understand how it works and make a very timely repair. So some of the stuff that we'll cover is obviously tractors themselves. And with our trade, we have lots of different implements. So what ventures a little bit different from some of our other trades that this is very similar to is the specialized equipment like planters, sprayers, forage, which is going to cover cutters and which are mowers, balers, and so on and so forth. We also have tillage and seeding type of equipment and other implements that can hook to our tractors and equipment also. And with these all sometimes are very basic, and with new technology, they've also got to be much more complicated at the same time, with the electronics being added to these things. So like we mentioned, the farmers do rely very much on these technicians to get them up and going and to help them with equipment decisions. So when you graduate from this program, there'll be quite a few different fields that you'll be able to work in, and the first and foremost being an agricultural repair shop, so like a John Deere or a Case, so on and so forth. Lots of farms are also getting big enough that you may work on different farms, some forestry operations where the ag is very similar to some of our heavy equipment operations also. I think that's all, Andrew, unless you wanted to go down through the courses that we go
No,
through. But
that was fantastic, Joel. I appreciate that. So that's ag, folks. And like I said, any of you that are interested, just remember at the end of this, ask Joel any questions that you have. So our next program is heavy equipment repair. And so for heavy equipment repair, we have Daryl here tonight. So Daryl, whenever you can, just take right over and give these folks a little overview.
Certainly, and welcome everyone. As Andrew indicated, my name is Daryl McTavish. I am an instructor with the Heavy Equipment Service Technician Program on the Miramichi. Been doing that for over 28 years, so a lot of my teaching experiences have gone through a wide and diverse amount of changes in the equipment industry. With our program, it's very similar in format to Joel's agricultural service technician program starting out. And our main goal is, especially on the practical side of things, is to introduce new technicians really to the shop working environment. With that, we'll begin with the safety aspects involved in working in the heavy equipment repair trade. Just a few examples, like we'll learn how to deal with situations like simply as cleaning up oil and grease spills in the shop, and it goes on to include topics such as how to properly enter and leave a piece of equipment. With that, we will, like everybody is getting introduced into a new trade, so we will as well cover the areas of hand tools. We'll look at all the fasteners and fittings and tubing involved with repairs that you must make in the industry. We'll look at shop equipment, and with that, we'll demonstrate, and you will also demonstrate to us how to use all the equipment. We will have a theory aspect and a practical aspect to our program, where new technicians will learn the theory, of course, of, for example, your hand tools. Then when you go into the shop, you will have a series of projects, which you will get introduced to these various hand tools, and then just carry out just different service procedures, that are very basic to begin, and then get more detailed as the program progresses. One part of our program that makes it unique to heavy equipment is the course on track type undercarriage, where you will or it's not just, but you will actually learn how to properly jack up and block equipment. And then from that part, we will learn how to break the actual track chain, whether it's on a dozer or excavator. And then we'll learn how to remove and service measure, various undercarriage components. And as well, like the or Joel's egg program and Bob's truck program, will also get introduced to basic electrical and hydraulic systems applicable to today's equipment. And we do and are very fortunate to have, a lot of newer pieces of equipment in our inventory, like anywhere from 2017, down to approximately 2011 in our dozers and our wheel loaders, just to give you an example. We have a lot of equipment, that do or utilize, whether it's EGR or the new emission systems. So with that, it is a very diverse program. It's a building or a stepping stone on the various blocks that will lead you to a RID SEAL certification, hopefully in the heavy equipment trade. So with that, Andrew, am I thorough enough for everybody?
Oh, I think that was great, Daryl. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay.
We'll move on to our next one, and that's truck and transport service technician. And for that one, we got Robert Hitchcock here to help walk you through that one. So whenever you're ready, Robert.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone here this evening. Again, I'll mention welcome to NBCC, since it sounds like most everyone is on board for this fall. Again, my name is Robert Hitchcock. I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick, in the Truck and Transport Service Technician program. Next year, I guess I'll be going into my 20th year here. So been here for a while too, similar to the other guys. Again, we're going to be dealing with the Truck and Transport Service Technician program. Similar to most of our programs, we're going to be covering many different subjects, starting right from shop safety at the beginning of the year. We get into hand tools and shop tools and equipment, fasteners, tubings, and fittings. We get into vehicle service, like preventive maintenance service. Preventive maintenance service is a major part of our industry. These trucks are running up and down the road, oftentimes long distances away from home. We want to make sure the vehicles are reliable and they're able to make it back to their destination, or to their destination and back, I should say. So that's a big part of our program. We do some engines and support system stuff, which is some basic engine principles on primarily our focus is on the diesel engine category, but we do talk a bit about the gasoline as well. We also talk about our cooling systems and our air intake and exhaust systems and our fuel systems and other peripheral systems around the engines. We get into hydraulics as well. We get into steering and suspension systems, which is probably more intensive in the over-the-road truck category. We do some powertrain work as well, where we get into clutches and drive lines. We get into transmission removal and installation. Brake systems as well. We cover both hydraulic brake systems and air brake systems in the truck program. Because again, in our category and in our shops, our mechanics are working with both the medium and heavy duty trucks, which typically use air brake systems. And we're also working quite a bit with, or somewhat, I should say, with hydraulic brake systems as well, like our more typical and light duty vehicles. Did I hear someone jumping in there for a comment or something? No? And again, out towards the end of the year, we get into some subjects like electrical systems, where we do everything from basic electrical and lighting systems, gauges and accessories, and we get into vehicle management systems as well, which a lot of the newer vehicles are getting more and more technologically advanced. The operation of the engines in order to make them clean has gotten fairly complex, but not to mention also the features of the vehicle. Also are often electronically controlled modern vehicles. So we get into quite a bit of that stuff too towards the end of the year. So just to look at my list here, upon graduation, you may be employed with, see the first comment there is competitive wages and challenges encountered while doing highly skilled work. Generally similar to Daryl's conversation and Joel a bit as well. Generally, our technicians start out at a fairly basic level. They learn the basic stuff on how to function in a heavy duty shop safely and efficiently. And then we move into more complex, more complicated type work in the field as we advance through the years, right? Again, we're a pre-employment program, so we're basically covering the content of the Block 1 apprenticeship exam. So again, typical to most of our programs, when we finish our first year, that prepares us to write the apprenticeship Block 1 exam. And then, of course, our technicians will go to work in the field. They'll come back and do a Block 2, 3, and 4 in order to become a certified journey person in the industry, right? And again, employed with. So where do we go to work after our program? Typically, dealer service departments are quite common for our students. Trucking fleet operations are also fairly common for our students to go to work to. There's also government highway departments, railways, and independent truck repair shops. And a lot of the students have a preference of where they would like to go, and a lot of the students will figure that out as they go through the program through the year. So again, that's a kind of a quick overview of the Truck and Transport Service Tech program. And like the rest, I'll be sticking around later to see if there's any questions out at the end. Thanks, everyone.
Right. Thanks, Robert. That was great. The only thing I'd like to add, folks, for you too is we also offer the truck and transport in Woodstock as well. We follow the exact same curriculum up there as we do in Moncton. The only difference is in Woodstock, we do a slightly different delivery in that it alternates between on campus or virtual and also out in the field working in your practical in industry. So it's just a little bit different, and so I just thought I'd put that in there. So if you have any questions on that, just feel free to ask them as we get going there as well. Okay, so our next one is marine diesel mechanics, and so Darren's going to speak to that one. Whenever you're ready, Darren.
So again, welcome everybody. I'm Darren Donahue. I teach in the marine diesel mechanics program. I've been here about 8 years, I guess. Before that, I kind of lived the life of truck and transport technician and a heavy equipment technician, and then I found myself working on ships. One of the companies that I worked for ended up having a pretty large fleet of ships, and so I ended up working on those, and I wound up here teaching marine diesel mechanics. So I got a pretty wide background, I guess, on different types of mechanics and stuff like that. But the marine diesel mechanics program is unique because we're the only one in the province. So it's a little bit different. In the end, we don't. Our students don't write a block in the end. They're credited. I think it's 1,100 hours towards Block 1 in an apprenticeship. And the reason why we're not writing a block is because we don't cover steer and suspension and brakes, basically. But our main focus is engines, and I mean the brakes on a boat are basically your engine and your clutch. So we focus on engines. So at the beginning of the year, same as everybody else, we start out with hand tools and fasteners, tubes, tubing, all that stuff, basically the same as everybody else. But then we move into into some machine work. We have a couple of lathes, metal turning lathes in our shop. So we get students working on that, making tools, making a few different projects on that. But then we move into a complete tear down and rebuild of outboard motor. So we start out with a small marine engine. Basically, it's an outboard. You tear it completely apart, inside, outside, every component is off, and you measure it and compare all the components of the engine and the gearbox to the specs. We replace parts if they need to be replaced, and we put the outboards back together, and then they must run. So it's not just a matter of tearing an engine apart and throwing it back together. It has to run. And then we move into so that'll pretty much put us till the winter break, and then we get into a complete tear down and rebuild of a diesel engine. And again, it's tear it completely apart, do all the specs, compare the parts, replace them if we need to, and then put it back together. And then we have a dyno, which is there's not a whole lot of dynos to run big diesels around in the province, but we have one in our shop, and we actually put the engines on the dyno when they have to run. So we'll power them up. We had one on this year here. It was a new engine that we just got, did a complete rebuild on it, put a crank and a camshaft, and did all kinds of stuff to it. And we were just pushing 500 horsepower when we had to shut it down. But so we can actually get to see that. Along with that, we also do hydraulics and basic electrical, same as most of the other programs here. And you know, it gets us to where we need to be. So by doing the outboards and the big diesels, it gets you into the pleasure craft, leisure side of it, small working boats, and then we get into the big diesels, which gets you into the bigger stuff. Okay. So as you graduate and get into your work practicum, at the end of the program, we have a 3-week work practicum. You get out there, and a lot of our guys are going marine this year here. Particularly, we had a lot of students go into the marine aspect, but we also have some that will go into automotive, truck and transport, heavy equipment. Some go into industrial mechanics, and you know, just as an example, we've had NB Southern Railway pay some of their employees to come and take the marine diesel mechanics program, basically on the diesel engine aspect of it. So they'll pay them to come down, get the diesel course out of it, and then they go on their way to whichever trade that they decide to go. So I mean, other than that, it's a pretty awesome program. Like I said, we're the only one here that does what we do, and I certainly hope somebody here does jump in to see us.
Thanks, Darren. And like Darren said, it is a unique and an interesting program. Some people pay to go on cruises. Why not get paid to go on one, right? So our next program is going to be industrial mechanics. So for the industrial mechanics, Shannon, I'm going to bring on Shannon to speak to that. Now, Shannon's just having some little bit of challenges with his connection tonight. So hopefully
I'm good, Andrew.
You're good, and that's great. So we'll let Shannon take it away.
Good evening, guys and girls. I'm Shannon Savoy, the industrial mechanic instructor for Miramichi. And a little bit about my background is I am obviously an industrial mechanic. I worked pretty much the North Shore of the province, Acadian Peninsula, Bathurst, Southern Quebec, all those places on the road, a lot doing hydraulics and stuff. I'm also a journeyman welder, and I'm a journeyman production equipment mechanic. And the reason I got 3 red, 2 of them are red seals, one is there are 3 journeyman tickets, is I branched off. One thing about our trade is it's a little bit about everybody's trade. We learn a lot of welding in pre-employment in the 40-week program. We learn welding. I teach us the 4 position. We do a lot of machine shop. We got a full-fledged machine shop there. We got 8 lathes. We got 2 milling machines, grinders, all that stuff. We spend a lot of time on that stuff. We spend a lot of time on hand tools, portable, same as the other trades, hand tools, portable power tools, power metal saws, fasteners, pedestal grinders, gear drives. Like you guys probably think of a transmission or think of a car, but we got gear drives in big industrial mills that there's spur gears, herringbone gears, all those different types of gears we run in there. We do belt drives, chain drives. We do a lot of coupling and clutches. So those are just some of the areas. And like I say, the industrial mechanic trade is such a broad trade that we cover so much. When you come back for your apprenticeship, we jump into, when you come back, say for block 3, we cover block 1 and block 2 with the 40-week program. When you come back for block 3, we spend a lot of time doing hydraulics. We spend a lot of time doing electrical. We spend a lot of time doing pipe fitting. We spend a lot of time doing diesel, gasoline, steam turbine engines, jet turbine engines, boilers, not as much as they used to be. So it's a very broad trade. Like you're learning a lot of everybody else's trade. And where do we work? We work in places. If you just right now take a look around you, and everything you can physically put your hand on, it was made by some kind of machine. And that machine was probably built by an industrial mechanic. It might have been designed by an engineer, but it was still built by and maintained by an industrial mechanic. You come to work in your car in the morning, or you go to school in your car, well, the robots that weld up your car were probably serviced by an industrial mechanic. The computer screen you're looking at, the microchips in your computer right now were probably made by some machine that made the computer chip that was made by an industrial mechanic. So employment opportunities with industrial mechanics, you're looking at anywhere where they make stuff like fabrication plants, pulp mills, sawmills, peat moss plants, underground mines, shipyards. A lot of our guys go into shipyards. Shipwright and millwright, industrial mechanic are all closely related. Like there's a 3-week work practicum attached to this, and that's what I'm doing in these last couple of days is I'm visiting this year's students on work practicums. And we're going to places like Cavendish Farms. We're going to McCain's. I was at the Mactaquac Dam today. I was at the pulp mill in St. John. We're over into Grand Lake into the sawmills. We're going into another mill in Plaster Rock tomorrow. We're going into a fabrication shop in Renews. So there's a lot of places for employment. Fish plants is another big place for us. Coal mines, potash mines, all that stuff. They're all hired in those places. There's a little bit of math and physics involved with this here trade because of the hydraulic side of it, and especially and pipe fitting and stuff. So it leads us into it's very, 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 very basic math and physics. So if you made it through high school, you have enough to get through the math and the physics. The year starts off, it's same as all the other trades. We have 3 terms to the year. The first term is all your basic hand tools, nothing really. Most of you's probably seen that. It's like, I think it was Darren that said a while ago, or someone said that sometimes the less experience you have, maybe the better. And you didn't pick up any bad habits. So we start you off fresh. Like we show you what a combination wrench is. We show you what a ball peen hammer is, and we start you off from there. So there's nothing really to worry about. And it's the same as in September, I start you off in welding. A lot of the people that come through the door never struck an arc before, and which is great because they got no bad habits. So you're going to be welding. You're going to be learning about hand tools and all that stuff in the first term, rigging and stuff like that. Second term, you're going to be right in the machine shop. You're going to be running the lathes. You're going to be cutting threads in the lathe, cutting tapers, turning down shafts, bearing fits and stuff like that. We spend a lot of time with bearings and seals because that's another big part of our trade. The third term is you're learning about your couplings and clutches. The third term, a lot of it is block 2 related, or level 2 we call it now. Level 1 is mostly your first and second term. But when you come for the 40-week program, you're learning everything to cover block 2, but you cannot, or level 2, you cannot write your level 2 because you're missing the hours. But when you do come back for your apprenticeship, it makes it a lot easier for that reason. That's pretty much it. Like I say, there's lots of places for employment. I find it really good in the last 5 years.
Well, that's
I've
good.
been pardon? Oh, that's someone had a question. in the last 5 years, it's been really good. And in the last year, it's been the best I've ever seen. There's been a lot of phone calls coming through the school, people looking locally. 10 years ago, everybody was going out west. Out west doesn't seem to be the trend no more. There's a lot of local people hiring, and which is good for apprentices. Maybe you might not make the $50, $60 an hour, but if you get signed up, that's worth an extra $10 an hour right there to get your license. So it's a great trade. I have a twin brother. He's also an industrial mechanic and a licensed welder. So we both kind of fell in love with the trade. And I've been in it since I was 18 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I've been at the school since 2002. So I'm going on 20 years of teaching, and loved every day of it. And I loved having new faces come in every September. Best part of the job. So that's pretty much it for that trade. If you have any questions, like Andrew said, we're going to hang around at the end. And I hope you have our phone numbers where you can give us a call or send us an email at any time. And if you want to ever come and visit the school, well, we're there. Thanks a lot, guys and girls.
That's great, Jan. Appreciate that. Just want to also point out that the industrial mechanic program is also offered in St. John, and another program that's not on my slides that's offered in St. John is the mechanical technician program. And with it is, like Shannon said, that the industrial mechanic program is a very broad trade. So the mechanical technician program, really in a nutshell, it just takes you on a deeper dive. It's a 3-year program and it has work co-ops attached to it. And so, like I said, it goes into much deeper. You cover the material in the level 2, level 3, and some level 4. So that also, like, anyone got any questions on that, please feel free to ask them questions as well at the end. I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to let you all know that at the end of this here you're going to, any questions you ask, if you want to see the guys that just done the presenting, just ask them a question and they'll come on and put their camera on so that you can see who you're speaking to. So thanks a lot, folks, and feel free to ask any questions you have.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to everyone, all the presenters. I know that was it's a lot of information to take in when you're talking about all of the different programs, but I found it very helpful, and I'm sure everybody here did as well. I've been monitoring the chat kind of throughout the session. So I have a question here from one of our guests that says, which is better, truck and transport technician, or it says heavy duty equipment, but I'm assuming he means heavy equipment service technician. So, I mean, I will give kind of the general answer is it probably depends on what you're interested in and what kind of work that you want to do, because the programs are different. I'm sure there are some similarities between the two, but if anybody would like to step in and answer that. So the question is, which is better, truck and transport technician or heavy equipment service tech?
I'll grab that one, Mike.
Sure, go right ahead.
Again, this is Robert Hitchcock. As Mike said, it really, more than anything, depends on your interests. We're both heavy duty mechanic trades, whether it's truck and transport or heavy equipment. Mainly the difference is that the heavy equipment is the off-road industry, where the truck and transport is the over-the-road industry. And the over-the-road industry, we're probably dealing more with regulations and legalities of the vehicles that are on the road, combined with similar engines, powertrains, and so on that are used in the heavy equipment industry. Where on the heavy equipment side of the world, and maybe Daryl wants to speak to this as well, I'm not sure, but on the heavy equipment side of the world, there's more involvement in undercarriage and tracks, and hydraulics is very big in the off-road sector. So I think that's a quick answer to the question, but once again, really depends on your interest. If your interest is the over-the-road trucks, running up and down the highway, using big power to haul that freight up and down the road, then that's my recommendation. If it's the sand pit stuff, the excavators and the dozers and loaders and so on, then I'd definitely recommend the heavy equipment side.
And just to add on Bob's comments, The one good thing about if you do enroll in whether it's the heavy equipment or the truck or even Joel's, I'll say it's Joel's, but the agricultural service technician is you have your choice to branch out. If you don't really care for the truck industry, you still have the opportunity to do, you didn't throw a year away, in other words, because you're going to have the opportunity to switch over to ag or any one of the three trades. And once again, that's heavy equipment, truck, or agricultural service technician. We all share the same block one exam in the end.
Awesome.
That's a good point on that there too, and just want to bring up the fact that with the apprenticeship that they all except for Darren's the Marine Diesel have an apprenticeship attached to them, which is a 4-year apprenticeship. So so like what Daryl was saying, like with the truck and heavy and ag is, you can kind of change your mind along the way and not lose out one bit, because you can just go to a different trade. So
great, thank you, everyone. I don't see any other questions in the chat right now, but I have a couple that we normally get, and this college preview is supposed to kind of set people up for what the fall is going to look like and kind of what to expect over the next few months. So I'll just kind of open this to the group, and maybe somebody can step in and answer. When will students register for their courses? Does anybody have a insight or just a couple of comments about that? Any information on when course registration will begin?
I guess if you mean when will they start being enrolled in their classes, that will start happening more towards the fall, like usually August, summer's in around there is when they start getting enrolled into their classes.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, Andrew. Thanks for clearing that up. I know, because sometimes people wonder, over the course of the summer, if they haven't heard from us, oh, is there anything else I'm supposed to do? But yeah, that's usually a step that comes towards the end of the summer as classes get a little bit closer.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good question here. Do students need their own tools?
That is a good question, and it's going to have a couple different answers. So I'm going to let Robert take the first one, and then probably Darren take the second one.
I'll grab the first one there, Andrew. For us in Moncton with the Truck and Transport Service Technician program, and also with the Agricultural Equipment Repairs. Sorry, Joel, I'll speak on behalf of your program as well here. But we provide all of the required hand tools to do the work, the practical work that we do in the shop at the school. Tools are all provided for that purpose.
In the Marine Diesel Mechanics program, we're a little bit different. Students are required to have their own tools. We did enter into a little bit of a partnership with a local Canadian tire store in our area, and they give a 53% discount to tools. So basically, it's like $1,600 worth of tools you get for $800.
Awesome, thank you.
Mechanics, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, but I know in Miramichi we supply the tools. We sign them out. You have the toolbox at the starting of the year, and then we just sign it out at the end of the year. So the only thing you need when you start is your PPE, your safety gear, like your coveralls, work boots, and your books. Maybe a notebook to keep in your pocket, and a tape measure, imperial tape measure.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. A couple other questions coming in here in the chat. Is it the Truck and Transport Service Technician that there were no blocks to do? I don't believe that's it. But maybe somebody else can comment on that.
So it's the Marine Diesel Mechanics that don't do any blocks. There is hours allotted, but not quite enough to write block one. So basically, if you graduate the 40-week program from marine diesel mechanics, you've got to go out and work for 600 hours before you can write your block one in either heavy equipment or truck and transport.
That's great. Thanks, Darren. And another question around the blocks, but in a different area. How many hours do you need for each block in industrial mechanics?
I'll take this one. Each block is, I do believe it's 1,800 hours, which is equal to a year's work. So you have 4 levels. At the school for the 40-week program, I do believe it's 1,200 hours you receive, but you're still able to write the block at the end of the year. It's just when you go for your block 2, instead of 1,800 hours, you'll need 2,400. And then it's 1,800 for block 3 and 1,800 for block 4. It's a total of 7,200 hours.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Hopefully that answers the question. And here's another question about textbooks. So I'm assuming this probably varies, by program, what kind of materials they need. The question is, what will we need and how much would they be roughly?
Yeah, that one there, it does vary per program. They might be better off to reach out to the instructor via email later to get that breakdown. I think there is a bit of a breakdown on nbcc.ca. Like I said, every program is just a little bit different, so I wouldn't want to speak to in general terms, I guess, unless they want to ask about a specific program.
Sure. So the question came from Joshua. So Joshua, if you just want to type in what program into the chat that you're going to be taking, we'll have one of the instructors give their email address and you can reach out to them and we can get that all sorted for you. Okay. So that is for heavy equipment. So Daryl, if you wanted to just post your email address in the chat for Joshua and he could reach out and ask the question about textbooks, that would be fantastic. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Any of the participants here? This has been good. This is kind of the way that it normally works on these things. There's just a little slow on the uptake with the questions at the beginning, and then as questions start coming in, people kind of get, oh, maybe I'll ask this or maybe I'll ask this. So this has been great so far. So we'll just wait a second, see if anybody has any other questions. Also, if you wanted to turn on your microphone or your camera to show face and come on and ask a question, feel free to do that as well.
One question that hasn't been asked, but I'm just going to speak to just in a slightly general terms is a little bit about how our delivery will probably be to come this fall. In that, we all know about COVID and what it's done to us, but we'll be doing all of our practical delivery will be face to face. So anything that we do, like in our shops and stuff like that, will be done in our shops the way it always has been. Hopefully, with everything going the way it's going, we're going to be on campus much more for our theory as well come fall. We're hoping but one thing's for sure, we're going to be there for sure for a practical and possibly another day or two for theory. But we're finding that it's working quite well for virtual delivery of our theory as well. And we're finding that helps with the students, it helps with flexibility for our students. So it will be a blended delivery is what we'll have come fall for next year. So, and again, that will vary by program. That's why I'm kind of speaking in general terms.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Andrew, and I'm glad that you brought it up. It was on my list here of things to mention if we didn't get around to it. And NBCC has done a tremendous job right from the beginning of the pandemic to making sure that all of the kind of practical in-person training that we're known for was all still done in person, even over the course of the pandemic, and that will continue to be the case as we move out of it as well. Anybody else have any questions? I'll just leave it just for a second. Do any of the presenters have anything that they would like to add? Anything that they thought of, after they had their little moment in the spotlight to add on? I see Joel, looks like you're coming on there, so I'll let you take it away.
The only thing that just kind of come to mind was when you do first come, you should have all your safety gear and obviously your books, but a lot of times people don't know what they should get for safety gear. And I'm going to say for most of these trades, it would be pretty safe to saying a pair of safety glasses, boots, and some coveralls. Maybe if anybody else has any different needs with the different trades, they could mic in there. But that is important, as you will be in the shop relatively early. And that gives you all summer to kind of find that type of stuff there also.
Thanks, Joel. That's a great point. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd just like to speak about marine diesel mechanics, where we are really the only program that does require you have your own hand tools. And it is only hand tools that we require. Obviously, we supply the big shop tools. And one of the big reasons why we switched over to students having their own tools was because every year there was tons of tools going missing, and students were working with tools that wore completely out. So we were finding we're getting a lot of busted knuckles and stuff like that from sockets being wore out and ratchets not working properly that nobody tells us about. So we thought, you know what? If you're entering into the trade, you're going to need some tools anyway. So why not get a good start on it right away?
Yeah, and on that, it is a positive thing to be supplying your own tools. It's a good, you can usually get funded through student loan for your tools and everything at that time, and you got a good start for when you go out on your career. You've got a leg up and a head start. You're not having to scramble to buy tools after you finish the program. So it's actually not a bad thing that you got to supply your own tools for your own hand tools down in marine diesel.
That's great. We have another question here that has come in. So will we need our own welding helmets for PPE? So for any of the programs, I think Shannon, you mentioned that there's some welding involved in your program. They need their own welding helmets for PPE.
In the industrial mechanic program, no. We supply all the welding, the helmets and the gloves. So no need to bring, if you have a helmet and you want to bring it in and you're comfortable with it, perfect. But if not, all the helmets are at the school.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to add there?
Marine diesel mechanic supplies all welding PPE as well.
Yeah, just on that point, with the helmets, like Darren and Shan said, we do supply that there. It is what we do is it's desanitized, and they're basically they have their own helmet for the year, and so it's not like they're sharing it back and forth with one another throughout the year. It's their helmet for the year. So
great, thank you. Another question here. For truck and transport technician, are there lockers available in the shop to keep safety gear, or do we have to take our stuff back and forth?
Hi, once again, for truck and transport service tech, we provide lockers for the students to keep their gear for the shop. Coveralls and safety boots and so on can be stored in the lockers. I'm speaking for Moncton though. Andrew might have to speak up for Woodstock there. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, no, they would have lockers up there as well. So
yes, okay.
Terrific. That's a great question. Okay.
Just back to tools for a second, if I may. for anyone in like in the truck or heavy, where we supply the tools, just want to let you know that if you want to bring your own tools, you're more than welcome to. If you want to bring your own welding helmet, you're more than welcome to. So, but just to let you know that.
Great. And for those of you not watching the chat, Robert did add to bring your own padlocks. If you're looking to use a locker, you may want to bring your own lock to make sure that your stuff is kept safe and secure in there. Okay. Well, we are about 22 minutes after 7. I'll just hold on for another minute if anybody has any other questions. Don't see any coming in. So what I'll do now is if any of the presenters have anything else that they would like to add just before we wrap things up here. All right. So on behalf of NBCC and all of our staff, we're really happy that everyone was able to join us here this evening. We hope that you learned a little bit more about kind of what to expect from your program in the fall. We're really excited to have you. It's a fantastic institution. NBCC is known as one of the top trainers for these different kinds of trades, so industrial and mobile equipment repair in the province and in the country. So we're really excited to welcome you all. If anybody does have any questions that come up, you can send them to after the session. You can feel free to send them to collegeworks@nbcc.ca. and we can make sure to direct them. Or if any of the instructors would like, you can feel free to post your program again and your email address so folks can reach out. So I'll give you a second to do that before I close things up. But again, thank you all very much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and we can't wait to see you here in September. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, folks. Looking forward to seeing you.